Welcome everyone to another session of TriTech University. My name's Bill Steppen, and today we're going to do part two of our exploration into designing custom reports using the Telerik Report Designer that comes included with version 12 of AIM-SI. Now, by this time, hopefully, those of you who were able to attend on Tuesday's session have had a chance to maybe go in and try playing around with connecting your AIM-SI database and maybe even starting to explore some of the potential reports that you might be looking to build. Now, I want to give a little bit of disclaimer for today's session. This is going to be by no means like the definitive methodology by which we would recommend building reports. I kind of made the previous disclaimer on Tuesday that I'm certainly no designer when it comes to how things should look or what things should function in that manner. But as I have been exploring more and more about the potential for this report designer, I really think what I'm going to be looking to do is to have this be maybe a continuing series, kind of exploring more and more about the Telerik designer as first of all, I get comfortable with it. And then second of all, then like help to try and figure out the different possibilities that this opens up for everyone who's using MSI as their retail solution. There's all different kinds of things that you really can do with this program. As I mentioned on Tuesday, there's the ability to set up reports that can have bar graphs and charts and pies and all different things of that nature. It also looks to me, now I can't confirm or deny this at this point, disclaimer there. But it appears to me that it's possible that this could be set up in such a way so that someone could either remotely access the report and run it on an as-needed basis so that it could be used to glean things in real time that weren't possible before with AIM-SI version 11 and older, such as the ability to get an up-to-date, for example, instructor scheduling without having to actually log into AIM-SI and open up the scheduler, which would then technically show specifically everyone's schedules, even those that you didn't want to see, or things like that. So I really think that there's a lot more that is capable with this. So as I explore more, I think you'll be seeing down the road maybe even just as Facebook Live videos or as short webinars about new functions that I will be learning as I explore Telerik, and then I can pass that along to you. Now, some of you were very gracious enough to send me some potential reports that we can kind of design together on the fly today. I do want to make use of this customer report that I've been kind of playing with over the past few days, just to kind of use that as our baseline, and then we will explore some other ones up to basically the end of the hour. Of course, if at any point you have a question, feel free to go ahead and plug that into the questions box in GoToWebinar. I will be periodically checking that throughout the time today, and I'll do my best to answer those as well as I can. Without further ado, let's go ahead. I'm going to open up this customer report so that we can kind of explore what I've got set up here. We'll kind of take a look at the lay of the land of the report designer so that we can all try and be as comfortable with this as possible. This is a pretty powerful program, and it's one that we didn't write here in-house. So we're kind of exploring this together, I guess you could say. Now, let me grab my highlighter utility here, a little tool. So this basic area here is your workspace. This would be the header of any given report. This would be the footer, and then this would be the body. Now, I've already pulled in the particular data set that I want to use for this report. But over here, you can see how this is going to be the Data Explorer. This is where you can pull in specific fields from a given table and basically drag and drop them wherever you want them to go into the body of the report. And then the properties of the report as a whole are down here in the corner. So just to kind of give you that, again, that lay of the land. Now, up top, as is the case with most Microsoft programs of this day and age, is a series of ribbon tools that you'll be able to make use of. So you can see here some basic font utilities up here, the ability to preview a report at any time. You can insert various details into the report. So this is where you could set up tables and, like I said, the different types of charts. You could have sub reports, which is something that I, again, don't have a whole lot of information on, but my guess, at least at this point, is that this could technically take you to another kind of report within a report. And then the data link we already kind of talked a little bit about on Tuesday, and then ultimately the view functions here for viewing your data, viewing the reports and properties and so forth. So going back to the Home tab here, what I have here as far as just our kind of exploration of the field is a basic customer report. Now, again, I would recommend using that data dictionary that we have in our help manual online, so you can kind of get more specific, like layman's terms as far as what these fields are. But I've just basically found over here, I'm looking kind of specifically at the SC cust file, which is the customer file. And I've pulled in the name field. So over here in this scroll bar, I have found the CUS name field, and basically I just click and drag that over to wherever I want it to go. I'm just going to go ahead and delete that one out with the delete key because I already have an entry here for the name field. I'm also pulling in their account number, address line 1, 2, city, state, and zip. So that's basically what I've got here as far as what would actually display on any given report. So just a real basic listing of customer accounts. Now, what I also have set up on this particular report is a special kind of customizable filter by zip code. So you can see when I click on the preview of this report, it's going to come up here and it's going to ask me to put in the specific zip code that I want to search by. So if I go ahead and put in, for example, 52001 and then hit tab, it's going to go ahead and it's going to find basically all of the customer accounts in my system that reside within that particular zip code. If I change that to 52003 and re-tab, you can see it's showing me different customers for the different zip code. Now, the way that filtering works, and if you had a chance to explore again that document that we have in the help manual that talks about linking your SQL system to the report designer and building a basic report, it also talks a little bit about how to set these filters up. So basically anywhere in this gray space, you can right click and you can go down to the option here where you can put in a filter. And then another little window will pop up here for editing a filter. And in this particular situation, I'm filtering on the zip code field. I'm making the operator be an equals, so I want it to be specifically equaling a certain zip code. Now, if we were wanting to search for, say, for example, the last 4 digits of a zip code, and you wouldn't want it to be specifically equaling, you would be looking for equals or is greater than, so you could be selecting, that particular operator instead. And then in this value field, you could actually type in a specific zip code if you wanted this filter to be the same filter all of the time. Now, in a situation like this where I want to be able to pick and choose the zip code, that's not what I am doing. What I'm doing is I am going to be searching specifically on a particular variant, if you will, of the value. But I could simply just go ahead and type in specifically what I wanted that filter to be, but that's not what I want it to be. I want it to be what's called a parameters value. So the way that gets set up is, and I'm needing to refer to my my cheat sheet over here actually, because I once again am not 100% on it. But the way that basically works is so setting up what's called a live filter. You would need to actually establish what is called a report parameter. So that's actually what we're seeing there on that screen. When you right click, oops, and I minimized it here, so let's get that back up over here. In order to be able to choose that report parameter like we see here, you need to establish the report parameter. So prior to actually editing or creating your filter, you would right click and you would go to this report parameters function. And with the parameter, I already have this one set up. But basically you'd be able to click the add button, and then in the parameter field here, you would be basically putting in specifically the name of the value that you want it to be. In this case, it's going to be the zip code. So if we take a look at the properties of that, so the other variable here, the other function that you want to make sure is specific here is whether it is visible or not. So you definitely want that to be true so that you can actually see the parameter that you could then edit. But then basically that would then be a parameter that you can then, back in the filters, you can then have it filter specifically on that zip code field. This is actually where it gets linked to the data field, and then you choose that zip code, or in this case, that parameter that we established back in the field. And that's why when you run the report with my preview function here, that's why you can see this field up here where we can put in our filter. Now, as far as how this works then within AIM-SI, let's go ahead, and I'm actually going to minimize this, and let's switch over into my AIM-SI program here. So we're going to switch back to AIM-SI. So once you've created the report, you can then, in your custom reporting menu, you can go to Run Custom Report. You don't actually have to do this within Telerik reporting. You could say Run Custom Report, and then just point it to wherever you have that report saved. So in this case, the customer report, will go ahead and open that. And then it will actually ask you for your output destination. Now, technically, my recommendation is to go ahead and show it to the screen, because you're going to actually need to be able to select the parameter in this case. So you can see how it's popping up here. It's going to ask for my zip code. I'll go ahead and put in the 52001. Here would be basically the actual output of my report. And then from here, if I wanted to print that out, I could go ahead and click this print report button, and then that would actually print the report for me. Hopefully that makes sense. Now, apart from actually pulling in data from the system, let's just explore a few other functions here. So let's switch back to my report designer screen, and we will go back to design mode. Now, technically, you could go in and you could just right click and you could put in pretty much any details that you want, as far as adding headers and inserting pretty much any kind of text or pictures or anything you want to pull in there. So for example, if we want to put in just a basic header for the report. We could type up here into the header field with the text box that we've added, and then we can go in and put in whatever we want for the styling, so you can have different functions with that. Again, I am not a designer by any stretch of the imagination, but definitely explore a lot of these things. I'm sure there are folks in here that are way more creative than I am, so it's just a matter of kind of checking these things out, so you can go in and you can make different changes to the fonts and all that different kinds of fun stuff. Dennis is asking if the process for sorting data is similar to that of filtering it. Actually, that is a great question, Dennis. I'm going to come back to that in just a second. But then, yeah, basically whatever you want to just type in into that field. So we could say, you know, this is the customer report by zip, and then I can just click the little expansion box to make that a little bit bigger, and then just so we can see what that looks like, we'll go ahead and preview that. So 52001, and we can see how that will have the header kind of at the top of the fields there. So then getting back to Dennis's question about sorting. So the way that sorting works, and again, I'm going to need to refer to my little cheat sheet over here, which honestly, it's the same cheat sheet that you would have. So that's the help document that we have on our help website online. So as far as sorting, let me just find that section here. As far as sorting, thank you for bearing with me. Okay, where did it go? All right, so sorting. Basically, again, you can right-click on the gray space here, and you can go down to the sorting functionality. And then with sorting, let me go ahead and pull this up over here. So remember how when we added the filter for filtering on zip code, basically the same thing with sorting. You can add a new sorting expression. So in this case, you can see how this is specifically looking at the fields that we have available to us. Let's go ahead and let's say we want to sort this by customer account number. So we'll go ahead and choose the option for CUS account, and then whether or not you want this to be ascending or descending. We'll make this be ascending, and we'll say okay. And then basically now that we have that added in, everything will go ahead, and in this case it would be sorted by that particular methodology. Now if you want to add multiple sorting, if we add another record, basically it's going to be in the order of priority. So whatever is the top level sorting here, let's say we want to sort by account number and then by city, or maybe we want to sort by city and then by account number. If we do account first and then city second, it would sort by account number and then by cities within the account number. But more appropriately, I suppose, because there's always the possibility for multiple cities to be the same, but not necessarily the same account number. So if we take the city sort and we move that up, it would then sort by city and then by account numbers within the city. So hopefully that helps out there, Dennis. It's a great question. I actually didn't have that on my agenda for some reason, so I appreciate the little dope slap reminder there. Pam is asking, how do you address the spacing of the report? Is space between each, for example, the space between each customer record? Basically, when it comes to the spacing, you can see how what we've got here is kind of our control. So by moving these fields around, we can shrink this down. By shrinking that down when we do the preview, that will basically control how big each record is. You can see when I shrink that space down there, Pam, that actually removes a lot of that dead space in between each individual record as it's being brought into the report. So hopefully that helps out there. Really what you see is kind of what you get when it comes to this this working field here. So you can make this be however you want it to be as far as the size. For what it's worth, I know I say that a lot, and it's probably hard to see through the GoToWebinar, but I'm going to grab my highlighter here, and you do have some toolbars running along the top and the side. Now these are rulers and they're in inches, so you can kind of use that as a way to judge how much space you're going to be having for the individual records as they get pulled into the report. So hopefully that will be helpful there too for those of you who really do want to make a very nice looking report that is suitable for printing. So, but yeah, basically you can see how when I click on each of these spaces, this basically gives me all kinds of room to make it as large or as small as I want. It also does pop up, and it's going to be, I can't actually highlight it, but you can see maybe at the very bottom there where it says 7.6 inches, 7.5, 7.4. So it will give you a real-time little reminder of how big the space is as you're making those adjustments. This is now 2 inches between every record. Now it is 1.5 inches. So yeah, basically, as you kind of click around, we can see even right on the individual fields themselves, we get the little indications of not only how big the field is, but also what the margins are. Again, it's probably really hard to see, but there's 0.2 of an inch as far as the margin between the very top of the page, the top of the header there, and where I have the text box of the customer report by ZipText. Paul is asking, can you use wildcards when you enter your criteria and zip code? Actually, that's a great question there, Paul. I have not tried that, so let's go ahead and try that. So we'll go back to our preview and we'll put in a 520, and we will do the wildcard here. And no, it looks like it is very specifically going to be looking for what you want it to be. Now, that being said, recall how the filter itself, let me actually go back into the report here, and we'll go back to looking at the filter. You can see how I made that be specifically be in equals. So what we could do is if we wanted it to be, let's say, for example, 520 and up, we could make this be a greater than. So if I make this be a greater than and make that be the filter now, when we go to preview it, when I put in the 520, it'll go out and it'll find basically any zip code starting with 520 and its way up. This also, if we go and take a look at those filters again, so the operators there could also be then a greater than or less than, so kind of basically in between is an option, a greater than or equals to. So basically just those different operators, I think, Paul, is what you're going to be looking for as far as setting up your different filters. The wildcard functionality is something that we do specifically program into those areas of AMSI where it would be most applicable. Dennis is asking, to make a report that prints in landscape format, do you simply drag the edges accordingly? And yep, that would be the case. So you would basically just pull it out to be out to the 11-inch marker there, if you will. Yeah, it's basically just, you know, whatever the format you want it to be there. So for that matter, I don't think there is specifically any controls for it up here as far as like anything else along those lines. But yeah, basically you would just go in and you would specifically set your parameters as far as how big it is based on the designer that you see on screen. I would like to take this opportunity to try and generate at least one report that was submitted to me as far as like an idea for a report. So let's go ahead and we'll go to a new report. We'll select a blank report. We're going to call this, let's see, what report do I think I can actually pull off here? Dennis, the report that you mentioned to me that you submitted is actually, I think, a really good report to try and generate. However, that also seems to be a pretty complex one. So I'm afraid I don't think we could really do it justice here in the format and the time frame that we have. Another one that was submitted was looking for reports that, or excuse me, for contracts that do specifically have maintenance on them. So basically they're paying maintenance to have warranty covered in the event of any kind of services. So let's go ahead and we'll create a report called contracts with maintenance, and we'll go ahead and we'll save that. So as we can see here, we're now back to square one as far as our report design. So first and foremost, let's go ahead and let's select a data file. Now again, like I said, you can use the open access data source like the file suggests. You can do the SQL data source, which is what I actually already have set up here. So I am going to go ahead and pull in my AMSI existing data connection, and I'm going to go ahead and use my query builder here to find, in this case, the SC contracts file. So we're going to look at our database view, and we're going to go down to SC, I believe it's actually SC rental, if I remember correctly. There it is. So we'll click on that. We can see that some of the examples that we have here are the account and sub-account, the student information. Most importantly, there's going to be fields here for total maintenance. So basically that's what we're basically looking for here as far as that information. So we'll go ahead and we will pull this in. So there's our, basically it's just going to generate what it is going to pull in as far as its statement. We'll just go ahead and say next to that, and then we'll finish. So there's all of our data source over there to the right, just like we saw when we were working with my kind of humdrum customer account report. So let's go ahead and let's pull in some data to display. So let's go ahead and we'll start with the student name. So we'll just go ahead and go down to the RNT student field. We'll pull that over. And then let's also pull in maybe their start date. So that would be the RNT F date here, if I remember correctly. Yep, that's the first date. But actually, that'd be the first date due. So let's actually delete that. And then we'll pull in the C date. That would actually be the contract date. So that would be the date that it started. And you can see how as I kind of drag these things around, it's kind of denoting via those little pop-up and alignment lines for the design functions. And then let's also see if there's anything else we can pull in here that might be relevant. Let's go ahead and see what the total maintenance might actually be. So we'll go ahead and pull that in as well, and we'll just kind of put these all in a line just like so. We'll kind of shrink down the space here. So let's give some headers so that we know what we're looking at. So we'll insert some text boxes here. So text box first one, text box 2, and text box 3, which are technically 4, 5, and 6 because the first 3 were the actual fields. So we'll call this one student, and then this one contract date, and then maintenance. All right. Now, the filter that we want to have here would be, let's add a filter that was going to be permanent. So we'll go ahead and choose our filter. We'll say new, and we want the total maintenance in this case to be greater than 0. So we'll find the maint, and we want this to be greater than 0. So basically now what that filter is going to do is it's going to say that the maintenance has to be greater than 0. And then maybe we'll also want to filter by the start date or the contract date. So let's go ahead and set up a report parameter, and we'll call this parameter start date. and we'll make that be true for visibility. And we want this to be, basically, I think that's all we do want this to be a date time. So for the type there, we'll go ahead and say okay on that. Then we'll go ahead and we will add a filter. So we're going to add another filter, and you can see how this is going to be an and filter. And in this case, we want the C date to be greater than or equal to, let's say, that parameter start date. So we'll go ahead and say okay to that. Then let's go ahead and preview this report. So basically what we're going to do then is we're going to be able to choose a date. Now, this would actually be really good if I knew that I had some contracts in here that actually have that data. We'll go ahead and click the preview, and yeah, I don't have anything in there. So let's do this. Let's go ahead and we will save this report, which technically it's already saved. There's the contracts with maintenance. So we'll go ahead, let's minimize that for now. Let's switch back to my AMSI screen, and we'll just make sure that we've got a contract in there that would qualify. So we'll switch back to AMSI. Let's just really quickly key in a contract. So enter new contract, and we'll just do a real basic one here. So bear with me while we get our good old guinea pig Mike Anderson up to the plate. We'll just do a basic rent-to-rent contract, so nothing too fancy. We'll do a flute, so FL 1001, and of course that's already attached to someone's account, so let's do FL 1002. We will then say that the student is Jordan, and the monthly maintenance is $5. The payment amount is $20. Just to have something in there. No, not that much. Let's just do $20 initial payment as well as $5 maintenance received. So let's go ahead and plop that in here. Let's also, for what it's worth, change the date to be the 10th, just to change the date a little bit on the contract. So it's going to ask us how that $25 is paid. We'll just put it in simply as $25 in cash. And we won't say it was deposited. We'll just basically take that payment. And then let's go ahead and actually let's do another entry to have as a control. So we'll go back to entering a new contract, and this time we'll do pepperoni. And we'll do another rent-to-rent, but this time we'll do one without maintenance. So let's do a trumpet, and we'll put this in for just $20 payments. Actually, let's make that be 22, just to have, again, a different number there. So we'll go ahead and save that. That was paid $22 in cash. All right, so now we have some data in our system that we can check out. So let's go ahead and run our custom report. So we'll go ahead and choose the contracts with maintenance, and we'll show it to the screen. So remember how we said that the maintenance already was a kind of a permanent filter. So let's go ahead and choose the 9th, and we'll preview that. And of course, it's not going to find it. It's going to make a liar out of me. Let's just see if this happens to come up with any of those other dates there. Nope, of course not. All right, so what did we do wrong with our filter? Let's go back to the report designer. So we will switch back to the designer screen. Let's go ahead and open that up. And of course, it's already open, so maybe that's the problem. But let's actually just go back to design mode, and let's check that filter. Now, maybe I'm filtering on the wrong field. So this is T maintenance. Let's just see if there is another maintenance field here. And this is really where I should be referencing our data dictionary. It's been actually quite a bit of time since I have explored. Maybe we want current maintenance. So let's check that. Let's go ahead. It needs to be greater than 0. So let's actually now preview this again. We'll just do this as of the 9th, hit the preview, and there we go. So we can see there's Jordan, and the maintenance is coming up as 0, and then that's actually because that was the T maintenance field that we were pulling in to display there. I'm thinking T maintenance is actually maybe total maintenance collected, as opposed to CU maintenance for the maintenance amount that's due. Now, just for our control, let's go ahead. Let's see, we had put that in on the 10th. If we make this be the 11th, we can see that that no longer shows up. And either way, we're not seeing the other contract that we had put in. So all we basically would need to do is just change this field to not be T maintenance. We would want that to actually be the CR maintenance, I think is what the field was, or the CURRMA, that's what we had. So we'll just pull that in, kind of finish that up, preview that once more. And there's the 467 in maintenance. So then once again, with all of that basically done, and these are basically saving in real time. So then back over to the AIM-SI screen, and we'll switch back over to AIM and then go to run that report and the contracts with maintenance, print the screen, and then we'll put in that date, hit the preview, and then basically this would be our printout. So hopefully that makes sense as far as like what I was doing there with that process. Andrea, if you're in attendance, hopefully you can use this as kind of like a starting point to maybe build a hopefully much more elaborate report than what I have here. Again, I am certainly no visionary when it comes to things like layout and stuff. I just train on this stuff. I don't necessarily do. Let's check out, Dan has a question. So we deal a lot with line item notes. Is it possible to create a report like this that pulls all line item notes for a particular customer? Dan, when it comes to these line item notes, maybe if you can elaborate on that. Can you tell me exactly where you're putting these notes in? Is that on the sales invoice? Is that in the customer notes field? I guess technically it doesn't really matter, because really, as far as I would be thinking, and you are saying it is specifically on the sales invoice. So what you would be able to do, Dan, if you were in attendance on Tuesday, recall that there's a special table now called SC Trans, which is going to actually be kind of your end-all be-all one-stop shop for all the different information relating to transactions. So you would be able to, there would be a notes field per se where those notes are getting saved in the SQL database. So I would envision that you'd be able to go in and basically say that you would want to pull in the report, whatever information you want to have displayed, whether that's the customer information, the transaction information, the notes, maybe the serial number that was attached to that note, or to that which that note was attached, stuff like that. And then you would have a filter for making sure that the notes field itself isn't blank, so that it would basically have to contain something. That would be kind of my on-the-fly thought process for how something like that would get set up. So hopefully that makes sense there, Dan. Thank you so much for the question. Let me just pull up one other report idea that was submitted to me yesterday. There were actually several that were submitted. So this one here, this one was pretty intriguing to me. A report to monitor newly added SKUs to check they're set up correctly for sales tax. So basically a report that would have the SKUs and then the tax information on the same report. So getting back to AIM-SI, or excuse me, to the report designer, let's go ahead and switch back to that. So once again, we'll go back to File and we'll do New Blank Report. click the browse button. Let's say that this is new SKUs added, and we'll save this. Now for SKUs, we would be pulling in data from the SCSA. I'll know it when I see it. So we'll go ahead, we'll access the AMSI database. Let's go ahead and just scroll through. Actually, you know what? Let me do this. Let me give the hypothetical of how you might look this up. So let's go out to our AMSI help page. So let me pull that up here quick. Rather than just me relying on my brain from back in my tech support days, trying to remember where all these fields actually are, let's go ahead and switch your view to my web browser here so that you can see what I'm looking at. We'll go to the miscellaneous section, just like we talked about on Tuesday. We will go to the design a custom report, and then we'll click the link that says to take me to the data dictionary. So in this case, we're going to look for inventory. So we're just going to type in inventory right over here into the search bar, and then we're just going to look for the table here that would be hopefully the most specific. And in this case, we have a table simply called inventory SKU. Clicking on that, we can see that this has some fields here for SKU and whether it's discontinued, and all these other relations here for other tables and such. So I'm pretty sure this would be the table that we would want. Now, for what it's worth, Pam, I believe, is the person that was asking us for the inventory. There is specifically an inventory serial tab here, but I think you were kind of thinking more along the lines of the SKU record itself. So I'm pretty sure this is the table that we want here. Just kind of double checking my work here just to make sure. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is the one that we want. So let's go ahead back to the report designer, and we will find that table and pull it in. So let me switch back to that view. And while I'm switching back, I think I saw another question come in. Andrea says, for us trucks, will tech support be able to help with first time setup? Yeah, definitely. If you've got any questions about any of these steps anywhere along the way, you can always give a call into technical support. We'll be more than happy to help out. Let's go and find that table. So SCSA SKU. There it is. And I think the thing that was kind of throwing me off is I think this used to be called SCSA HDR or something like that in the olden days. So that's, I think, what I was technically thinking about when it came to this. Actually, let me look here because I'm wondering if we actually need the quantity field for well, actually, this should reference the quantity table, right? Apologize while I'm talking to myself here. But I'm pretty sure this actually does have a relation to the SCSA QTY. Maybe it doesn't. It should though. Let's go ahead and try it. So we'll pull that in. We'll say finish. So there's our tables. So we'll go ahead and SAD. What is the SAD file? Let's go. So for what it's worth, I am looking up that. SCSADSC, that's the table that I wanted. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's actually go to a different table here. So that was the table that I was looking for, SCSADSC. All right, so we will go back to that particular table then. SCSADSC. That's the top level table that I was thinking of. SCSADSC, here we go. So yeah, this has the description, this will have the model, this should also have a field here for I believe, whether it is taxable or not. Actually, where is that tax code saved? I'm trying to remember where that actually is saved. Is that on the QTY file? Should be like a tax field or a tax override. Tax code, okay. So actually, let's just go straight off the quantity table. Let's do that. Let's go ahead and pull that in. So we want the date that it was, well, let's see, first of all, we want the SKU. So do we have the listing for the SKU? There's the SKU FK, there's the SKU FK link. So actually, for what it's worth, when you see this link field here, this is basically how we can pull in, and I'm probably going to eat my words here, but this would basically be the actual SKU as opposed to the SKU record locator. And that probably doesn't mean anything to anyone, but basically there's these fields within the tables that kind of talk to each other and create these relationships. Now, I believe the field that I just pulled in here is going to show us the actual link back to the SKU, because the SKU is in a different table. Whereas the other one, the SKU FK itself, would just be showing me the number that is used to link the two. So instead of showing me the SKU, which is what this would do, this would show me the bridge, if that makes sense. If we have the information over here and the information over here, there's a bridge between the two sections. What I pulled in would show me what I want to see as opposed to showing me the bridge. So, but we'll find out in just a few moments when I go ahead and preview this. In fact, let's just go ahead and preview it now. So we'll see what this pulls up, if anything. All right, it's not pulling in anything. So I've probably totally botched what I was looking for here. Let me see, because I know I do have some inventory in there. Let's go ahead and just pull this in just to have that next to it, just to see if this does show me anything. Well, there's a 1 and a 2 and a 3. Okay, so there's that. Let's try the other one there. So that's SKU FK link, or the single. Let's just see what this shows us. Nothing. Okay, interesting. All right. Well, I was hoping, Pam, that I could kind of maybe cobble this together here for us to check out. I'm sure there's a way to do it. Quite honestly, I can't really think of any function that would be impossible to do short of looking for 2 or more separate sets of data within AMSI that just wouldn't have any correlation with each other. Like, say, for example, and let me see if I can even think of an example. Like, let's say, both vendors and customers, which, and if that was the case, why would you even have a report that would be wanting to show vendors and customers at the same time as well? I'm not saying there wouldn't be a reason for it, I just can't think of one. But I'm pretty sure that that really the sky's the limit as far as this report designer is concerned. It's just a matter of kind of hunting down where that data resides. And again, we are actively making that data dictionary a priority. So I wouldn't be surprised to see daily updates to that table that we were viewing there on the data dictionary. So I'm just taking a quick peek at it again just to see if there's any other field there that could potentially house that information. And I'm almost positive that that should be what we were looking for, that model table, which should have the links to the other fields. but I do apologize that I wasn't able to kind of show that one live for you, Pam. Those other reports that you had asked for there, by the way, I've been meaning to get back to you on that, Pam. Yeah, you are here. Things like listing mins and maxes based on categories. I believe there are actually already reports already in the system. Like, for example, that would be the model inventory report that you could run. The only caveat to the model inventory report would be it would be looking specifically for sales of those model inventories so that you could see what the mins and maxes of those models are. So maybe that's why you were looking for the report, so that it wouldn't have to be based on sales, recent sales of those figures. So, but hopefully this has been helpful. Again, I apologize that I'm not the best designer in the world, but hopefully this can give you some ideas, get the gears turning as far as the thought process behind it. We didn't explore much in the way of these other output styles, but you can see how if I highlight one of these fields here, these other functions up at the top become available for inserting pie charts and scatter charts and column and bar graphs and all different kinds of things like that. So my recommendation would be to explore this out. Like I said before, also on Tuesday, there is a plethora of information available on the Telerik Report Designer just by searching YouTube and Google. There's all kinds of video walkthroughs on it. I am looking to see if I can find a more specific like virtual instructor for myself so that I can kind of get that straight from the horse's mouth, as it were, so that I can turn around and make that available to everyone via this webinar format or Facebook Live, like I mentioned. But yeah, definitely there's the best thing, really, in my opinion, on this report designer is it is strictly read only. So you can play around with this and you don't have to worry about corrupting your data, because we're doing strictly queries. And what that means is we're just looking at the data. We're not writing back to the data. So you can't muck up your system by putting in a report that that doesn't make sense or ends up not working. Dennis does have a question, or actually he's saying here, he thinks that he just discovered that you can pull in multiple tables easily if you choose the SQL data source rather than the open access data source. The query designer allows selection of more than one table, and it does seem to automatically link them using the appropriate table keys. So let's check that out, Dennis. Let's go back to the data source function here. So we'll just kind of keep on doing what I was doing there. We will go ahead and do the query builder here. Let's go ahead and try pulling in those multiple tables here. So we'll go back to the three that I was kind of exploring there. So SC, SA, DSC, and then the SC, SA, SKU, and the SC, SA, QTY. So we'll leave those all check marked there, and we'll say okay, and we'll say finish. So it actually does look like it pulled all of those in. So let's try this. Let's go ahead and clean this up here. Maybe Pam, we'll have Dennis to thank here. So let's go ahead and pull in the SKU. I know I saw that here somewhere. SKU, SA. Now, where did it go? It was just here, wasn't it? I know I just saw it over here. All right, let's try this again. SQL. I must have touched something. Okay. 14th time is a charm, as we say in the biz, right? And that is the biz of making a mockery of myself. So DSC, QTY, and SKU, and we'll say okay to that. and we'll finish. So there they are. Okay. Now let's go and find the SKU SKU. We'll pull that in. Only fields from the current data source SQL data source 2 are allowed. So can I delete those data sources? What if I now do this? I've just deleted those, so we'll pull in SKU. There we go. So there's the SKU. Let's also search by, there should be a first date field. Actually, we want to display the tax code, so let's pull in the tax code. So right there, we've got both the SKU data and the SAQ data. And then let's pull in the description, because why not? That'll actually be all three fields here. So we'll do that. We'll make that be bigger to expand out to that. And then we want a filter. So let's do, well, first we need a report parameter. Let's make this be entry date. And this is going to be a date time, and it's going to be visible. And then we're going to add a filter. So new, and the filter is going to be, there should be a date created somewhere in here. I'm trying to remember where that specifically is. Date in-house, that's not it. That would be for lease pool, physical date. Disk date, discontinued. I'm pretty sure there is a first date. I just need to remember what the field is. As long as there's a field for it, which there should be. And it might be on yet a fourth table. I don't think it would be, but that is always the possibility here. Okay. And I'm thinking it might be in another table for that particular date field. But basically, let's actually just check this out here, Dennis. So we have three tables or three fields from three different tables. Let's just preview this. And we'll, okay, let's get rid of that entry date. So let's go back to design. We will remove that filter. So this filter's not there. Let's just get rid of the report parameter. We'll remove that. Preview. And I think it's building the report here. Hopefully. Let's close these other reports while we're waiting. So yeah, we'll save that customer report. I'm not sure if it's doing anything there, Dennis. If that is true, if it does basically build the relations for us using that SQL data source process, then I'll do some more exploring with that to see if that actually would be a better process than the open access data source process as we have written up in there. If that works better, we will adjust the walkthrough on making the connections appropriately. I'm thinking it's not finding anything, or I'm not sure what's going on with that. But yeah, we will continue to explore that. Hopefully, this has given enough information for everyone to start exploring it on your own. As I mentioned to Andrea, if you do have any questions, feel free to give us a call. And all of that information that we've been kind of talking about is available right from AIM-SI Help. So back in AIM-SI Help, just again, to make sure everyone knows where you can find that, let me switch back to my AIM-SI screen. So in AIM-SI, just go to Help, and to AIM-SI Help. That opens up, and we'll switch over to my Chrome browser here now. That opens up a web page. Takes you right to our main screen there. On the left-hand side of the contents box, click on the miscellany option. And then underneath miscellany, click the design a custom report. This is the walkthrough that we have step by step for connecting the data. And then as far as finding the specific data that you want to pull in, click right here where it says we've got a data dictionary. That opens up another tab in your browser where you can then do a search for the tables. So hopefully this has been helpful. As always, this is recorded, and the recording will be on that go-to stage page here within the hour. So if there's anything else we can do, definitely drop me a line. You can reach me at training@technology4retailers.com. You can also just give our support team a call if you just need a basic question answered, or even if it's more than basic. I always say give support. You can kind of think of them as your first response unit. So you can always give them a call, even if you're not sure if it's a support related question, give them a call. And if that's for whatever reason something that they can't help with, we can always try and direct you to the right path. As far as upcoming webinars, we will be doing two types of broadcasts in the coming not the next week, but the week after that. So getting back to our every other week format on July 23rd, so Tuesday, July 23rd, I'm going to be doing a webinar on stations. So I'll be kind of tuning it kind of specifically to those in the gun industry, but stations, for those of you who aren't in the know, are basically functions that you can use the AMSI system to check customers into and either bill them based on the time spent in that station. So in the case of a gun store, this would be like firing lanes. If you're a golf course, this could be slots in the on the driving range. Basically anything that would be kind of used for billable time. Actually, for music stores, if you've got like a recording studio type thing where you're billing them by the amount of time spent in the recording studio, this could be definitely something that you could use for that function as well. So that'll be on July 23rd. And then on July 25th, I think we're going to be doing another Facebook Live broadcast, and we'll be going into just a quick run through on the short-term rental groups functionality. Both of these are technically subject to change, but that's my thought heading into next week. So keep your eyes open and peeled to your social media feeds for Facebook and Twitter. We are on both of those channels. Your email inbox, we always shoot out a blurb via email. So if you're not on our mailing list, give us a call. We can definitely get you on there. And yeah, hopefully this has been helpful. We'll see you in the future. Thanks so much.